Yellowjackets Season 2, Episode 8. We are reaching the end of this season. It's one or two more episodes. I've saw conflicting reports. Some things said it was 10, some things said it was 9. It does seem like Episode 9 could be the last one because we've kind of reached like the climactic ending for what a lot of the story could be for this season. I would like two more episodes just to kind of like clear our minds, especially if we might be a ways out still from a season 3. I would kind of like to just get like more content out there to appreciate. So that's kind of what I'm hoping, but I don't know. It could go either way. This episode was a really big one. A lot of stuff happened. A lot of big moments were revealed. Like all of our girls came together to have a sweet little conversation, and I appreciate that immensely. This gave every one of our characters a moment to talk about what they needed to talk about, to do what they needed to do. And every single timeline, too. Every character had their moment. Every single person needed their spotlight. And it balanced it well. And it was one of the shorter episodes, too, which was very impressive. There is spoilers for this episode, so if you are still not caught up on the show, you don't want to know anything going on, don't watch this review. Let's talk about the present timeline first, because I'm just fascinated by how good things have gotten now that all of our girls have come together. I know that's such like a lame thing to say, but it took a long time for them to like meet up, and now that they're together, everything is working fine. Last episode, Shauna got a call that they discovered Adam's body. Now she's freaking out and has to go deal with it, and everybody that helped to cover this up is freaking out about it too. And our two ladies who were like out of the loop on the whole situation, Van and Lottie, are kind of like, what are you for covering up? It's like a great like development of character moments for everybody. Misty's like, well, I told you to do this thing. I told you to do that thing. You clearly didn't do it right. Nally's just like, we should talk about this and figure it out. And we see Ty's just very distant about the whole thing. But it does end in like the share circle that we were trying to do last episode that turned into dancing. This time it's a share circle. We're going to sit down and hash out all the problems that have been, I guess, lingering threads throughout the season and the last season. The thing is, like, I understand, like, why, as, like, a writer or, like, a creative, you would want to keep these girls distant from each other and not have them, like, talk about these important moments, because it creates tension. But as we have seen this story progress, these girls are kind of, like, beyond the tension that they give, so it makes more sense if they are all open about everything. Like, they are not the type who are just like, hey, sorry, I lied for 20 years about this thing. They're going to have their consequence, but they're also going to talk about it. So the fact that we get everything off the table, yes, we covered up a murder because Shauna killed a guy. Misty just reveals, like, yeah, I killed someone who was trying to get information on us. I guess Ty also sent the reporter after them. So everyone was just lying to everybody. Nat had her mental health stuff. Misty had the thing she did to the person. Shauna was lying about Jeff and Randy being the ones getting money from them, and Ty was lying about that stuff. It's all out in the open now. We have our little tiff. We have our little spat where everyone's kind of yelling. It's all very in character, and you like that. It's just deflecting the blame from person to person, and it's just like, well, Misty kind of tried to cover everything up and help everybody, which is what she's doing a lot in this episode for every single character. So that's really important. And it was a necessary moment. I could definitely see that being like, you lied to me, Shauna. We have to have tension in season 3. But let's skirt past that. We don't need that to be the case here. We can just move past it and do something else. And that's what we're doing. And I appreciate it so much for just moving on from that. It's great. They have their tiff. They're fine. Van's kind of like, well, this is weird. This is all crazy. But we also know that Misty kept tabs on her the whole time, so she was at like an arm's length for everybody. And Lottie has the brilliant idea. It's like, this is all connected to our past. Everything we've been doing, the spiraling downfall of all of our lives has been coming because of the thing that we left in the woods. So it's time we give it what it wants, another sacrifice. So the girls in the present timeline, their storyline ends with 6 cups distributed between all of them. One of them has poison in it and could kill them. And that's where we leave their story. And I'm like, oh man, you're really setting up for something big here. Which is why I'm kind of like, oh, maybe it is like 9 episodes, because we could potentially see one of the main cast die in, that timeline. I don't know. And even if there was a death of those six, I'm trying to think of like who it could be. It's probably going to be Van because we have established that Van is already dying. She's only got months left, so she could do like the noble sacrifice thing if it brings them closer. I could see it being Lottie. I could also see it being Natalie because Natalie had a lot to do in this episode. I want to say this too, just because before I came on to do this review, I was looking online at like what was trending, and Sophie Thatcher was trending. It's like the biggest disconnect between like the adult characters is the one between the Natalies, and you have Juliet doing something that's drastically different than Sophie. What I was going to say about that is there is a huge difference in what they're doing, but what Juliet is doing is trying to show you like how far Natalie has fallen just in terms of like her entire life. Like she is recovering on a path that's never actually going to lead to a recovery. It's also just her personality for a bit of it, and that kind of does bleed into the performance. It's not egregious, but it's just like this is going to be a hard thing to see what happens to Nat after what happens to her in the past timeline. So one of them's gonna die. Meanwhile, Jeff has a conversation with Callie after their house gets raided because they have a search warrant. We see the cops come in. Callie accosts the weird guy that was like pretending to be interested in her. And you do feel like maybe she is lying about like her sociopathic tensions, and like maybe she is playing up the facade a little bit. But she also has genuine concern in her eyes that like she actually trusted this guy to be nice to her and he was doing the wrong thing. Now again, they don't specifically say his age. So if they did kiss and he regretted it, it could still be bad. And I was like, it's weird that we haven't mentioned his age. We knew he was older, but you really feel the disconnect now that he might be like in his 30s, and it's so weird. We also see that Jeff is shown like Adam's body and how it's like so surgically cut, and the head, the feet, and arms are missing, but the guy had like a bone marrow transplant that he gave to like his friend. So there is evidence of his bone marrow on record that we could use. It's so creepy. You could just tell like he's like, oh, well, this is so obviously done by somebody. I don't know how I'm supposed to react. I really like what they've done with Jeff this entire season. He went from just being like the doopy, stupid husband to the supportive husband who's doing the wrong thing, trying to do right by everybody. It's not working 100% of the time, but it is an arc that he's going on. And I really appreciate that. And I just like that, yeah, this was a surgical cut. This was terrifying and something happened. And that leads to another event in the present timeline where Reddit's blown up and we see Elijah Wood's like, hey, they found him. I know something about this case. So it kind of sounds like he's going to be working with the police because he sends them an email like, I have some information about your investigation. Maybe this is 100% possible. I could see that leading to the police raiding Lottie's camp, and then we could see maybe like Shauna or Natalie killing the cop, like killing Kevin, or like what's the other name of the other cop that was interested in Callie? I could see that happening. Or some capacity of that where there's like a huge raid happening there. I think that's entirely possible. Another moment that happens in the present timeline is Jeff and Callie, because they have their whole like police search, and he reveals to her that she would have had a sibling if events took place differently in the past. So Jeff knew about the baby. We were wondering about that for a while. He knows about the baby, so he knew it was a boy too, and he knew it was his, so very interesting. And you see Callie trying to like emotionally process that. That young actress is doing great. I think she is just given a lot of like the younger burden in the present timeline, which is very hard to do. Especially just seeing like the comparison between like the intensity going on in the past to what she has to do. It's a different type of emotional destruction. It's very fascinating to see like what she has to hold on to. It's a great, beautiful moment. There's also a moment where like Jeff has a dream about his wife and she's got chainsaw arms and tries to kill him. So he's having dreams too. That's just like a normal nightmare, but it does play into the theme of like everyone's being haunted by the things happening. Because in the past timeline, a lot of our more supporting characters are now having visions. The two that we name the two now. Michaela is the one that had the rat, and the rat's actually dead, but she thought it was alive the whole time. And then we have Mari, who was just kind of like, I'm yum, 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 people, yum, 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 gonna eat them. She is seeing blood in the walls. So they're all losing their minds a bit. And it's going very intense. We also see that a couple of them are taking care of Lottie, and they're all worried that she's going to die. And if she does die, Lottie's just like, go ahead and eat my corpse. That's fine. You have to get nourishment somehow. Terrifying. terrifying notion. But it's just a bunch of like subtle stuff between characters. This episode really gave notice to Sophie Thatcher. And I know that's like come on, she's been doing great work this entire season and this entire show and on every other project she's on, but this one solidified in my mind that like this is the one to watch out for. I think all of this young cast is incredible. They're all very talented, but she just did so much heavy lifting just with the other characters she has to interact with, because she essentially is the one that interacts most with like the male cast of the past. She has to work with the coach, with Travis, and with Javi, and she has great moments with all of them this episode. Just quiet moments where you see things are falling down for everybody. And there's just so much that happens in like just what we're setting up to, kind of like where the coach is headed. We're talking about that. They are really giving us a lot with him, which does make you go, they're going to kill him. I'm starting to lean to maybe they're not going to. I think we could potentially see a season 3 where we hire like an old actor to play him. Because if he's like 30 to 40 in that timeline, go to 65, you could get somebody older to play him in that, or even just get Kruger to like age up the makeup a bit. It's possible. He stumbles upon the like tree that Javi found that kept him alive because he was looking at Javi's drawings, goes down into it, and it's like a weird hollowed out cave. There's like a root. The roots are hollowed out. You could go inside. It's either like a secret bunker, like a secret tunnel towards like the mystical thing, or like an old like witches thing that there's like maybe a spell on the forest or something. He's gonna learn something down there. We don't know what it is, but he's gonna learn something, because you think that's gonna be like the biggest shocker of this episode, but it's not. Something else insane happens. Nobody wants Lottie to die, and if she dies, they eat her body, but nobody wants her to die. So in an insane route, which both felt like it came out of nowhere, but was also expected, we're going to draw cards, and whoever gets the Queen of Hearts is going to have to sacrifice themselves for the harvest. You're like, whoa, that is a huge development. Now, I was also seeing some interviews, like that actual scene, they wrote in the script like who's going to get what card and how that plays out so perfectly. I love hearing that stuff because there's so many just like quiet moments that take place where people get cards that are close to it. Like you see Van gets like the Jack of Hearts. You see somebody gets a different queen. You see Javi gets like the King of Spades. He runs into his brother arms just like freaking out like I was close to death. It's terrifying. And who gets the Queen of Hearts? It's Nat. And we know Nat's not going to die. But it goes into an insane route that feels like it both, again, comes out of nowhere and is very obvious, where we see she's going to be the sacrifice. Shauna's going to cut her throat, but she's like, if you're going to kill me, look me in the eyes while you kill me. And it's Travis who steps up and stops them. And he just kind of like pushes the girls around for a minute, like, get away from her. Nat runs away into the woods. And then we get the needle drop of bullets with butterfly wings, because the world is a vampire, of course. And they're all chasing Nat into the woods trying to kill her. It's insanity. Like, it is an intense moment for this episode that you're just terrified of, because it's so visceral, and it leads to the downfall of what we're going to see. We're about to cross that bridge that's going to lead to the Antler Queen cannibal people. We're getting there really soon. We're getting there. And this is the scariest part of it. So the only people that are kind of like in her favor right now are Javi and Travis. And you see Travis is protecting her in like the cabin so she can get out and run away. Javi runs away from the scene too, and he's going to try to help her. He speaks for the first time this episode, trying to like, I know a place you can hide, which we know is where like the coach is at the moment. They just have to run across the lake. So him and Natalie are running across the lake, and everyone's chasing her. They got axes, they got like spears and like stakes to kill. They're going to kill her, and it's so insane. And I think the worst thing that could happen happens. Like, oh man, like, I knew it was coming because I did see it spoiled through like, hey, what's trending on Twitter right now? They run on the ice, and underneath Javi is like a little bit of cracking, and he falls into the ice, and He's going to die. And Natalie is trying to save him, but it's Misty that pulls her back and be like, no, if you save him, they're going to kill you. Which does both show some of the humanity in Misty trying to save somebody she considers a friend. But I think the most inexcusable thing happens in that moment where either two things could happen from that moment on. So what happens is they all stand around and watch Javi drown. He's a child. They're all children, but he's a child. And they just let him die, and then they pull his body from the water. And it's like, well, the forest chose. Javi's dead. I think that's inexcusable if we say they're not crazy. Like, because clearly they're all losing their minds. We see them all having visions, going in, like, they're beating up Lottie. They're all going insane, having these visions. So if we say they're all crazy, it is okay. I guess it's okay. But if we actually say they're just like angry and aggressive and they just let him die, it's not a good look. It really, like, I think pushes you away from like what happened, and that's not a good thing. Because Javi was I think the only clean character where we're like, yeah, this kid is the defining character. Like, he is the one that he's just the innocent. He hasn't done anything wrong. You can't accuse him of anything. And now that they all just let him die, it makes them all more guilty. Which I guess does play up into the fact that in the present timeline, they don't want to talk about what happened out there. But that also sounds like they were aware of the choices they were making as opposed to being crazy. So it's interesting to see where this is going to go. If they are straight up like, we were all delusional, hopped up every second of the day that we became cannibals, I'll be okay. But if even one of them's like, I just went along with this because that's what was happening, you can't really excuse them for killing the child. It also does something that I think has established a lot this season. We're not getting any more people out of the woods. You think, okay, Javi's an innocent. What's going to happen to him? We don't know. We know what happens to Travis. He makes it, but Shauna's baby doesn't. It's like the things that are like the mystery boxes, we're just knocking them down. And that's kind of interesting that we're actually doing that. It's an intense moment, and it was very scary, and you just feel so bad for that kid. And now there's the possibility that Travis has to eat his brother. That is destructive, and you completely understand why both Travis and Natalie in the present timeline, or future timeline for when they get out of the woods, would be broken. You really buy that. That's pretty cool. This was a lot of episode. I think this is the longest one of these reviews has ran yet, just because there is so much to talk about, and I feel like I barely scratched the surface, but we are nearing the end of the season. There is so much more to still talk about, so much more at play. It is getting very scary, and it feels like we're about to be losing a lot more people. I think Van in the present timeline is going to get out of there, but we'll see what happens. Very interesting episode, very intense episode. I was really upset, but hey, Sophie Thatcher gave an incredible performance, and I think she's going to be one of the breakouts of the show, because she's doing The Boogeyman. That comes out in a couple of weeks, so that's kind of exciting. So thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.